Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Feminist Spotlight for Girl at Bonga. Today, we're going to be interviewing Miss Eleanor, and to get it started, I will ask a few questions. So, who is Eleanor? What does she do? And can you tell us a bit about herself?
All right. So Eleanor is first and foremost a daughter. So my parents are a very important part of my life. I'm a sister to many, many people, biological and otherwise. I'm a wife to one and a mother of two. But aside from the family setup, and which is clearly a big part of who I am a real estate consultant, I am a finance consultant, and I am also a student of psychology at the University of Dar es Salaam, and a part-time lecturer at the university as well. Yeah, and I do business on the side.
That's great. That's a lot of things that we're about to unpack. Could you tell us a bit about your passions as a child and give us a little story about how that built up to what you do now?
All right. So my passions as a child. So my first ambition ever was to be a nun, but that was after I watched Sister Act. And Whoopi Goldberg was like, yeah, I want to be her. And then I went to high school and I read Ben Carson's book, and I wanted to be a brain surgeon, but biology and chemistry were not.
Same.
Yeah, they were not, Same. So my dad is a valuation surveyor, and I look up to him a lot. He is the person with the best work ethic ever. And I wanted to be like him. So I started asking him questions about, like, what do I have to study? What do I need to focus on to be like you? And he thought it was all a joke. Until fast forward, I present him with university admission papers to do, like, the course that he did. And yeah, so then I went into valuation and I did that. And then I got married and relocated, so I wasn't working with dad anymore. And I went through a whole process of searching myself and, self-discovery. Beautiful. And yeah, and it was quite the journey. Moving country, setting up a whole new life, turning everything that you used to know upside down and having to find roots all over again. So I know that psychology has always been my passion. Like, I love people watching. Like, I was that weird person that you find at a restaurant sitting in a corner reading a book, just watching people. That was me. So, but I didn't want it to be a profession. I didn't want it to be the thing that was bringing in money. So it was always my retirement plan. So after I've had kids and they've left the nest, and I'm like, what do I do with myself? Sort of thing. That was the plan. So retirement came earlier than than expected. And I figured, why not? I took, so when I retired from formal employment, I went more into investing. So instead of working for money, making your money work for you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I also went into helping other people get to that point as well. And I took a year off and did a lot of travel with the family and just like wake up in the morning and go sit by the beach somewhere and read emails, like, that whole
that whole like Pinterest aesthetic.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I am not one to be idle. Yeah. So I was like, okay, we're going back to school. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do it. So yeah, so I came back to school. I'm in second semester, almost done, almost graduating again. So yeah.
I think that's great. Your life is like a nice thing to watch and one to live in, I think. So let's dive into the financial bit of your work. What was it like being formally employed? And I'm going to ask you two questions at once, but also, what is the best financial advice you've ever been given, or advice you'd give someone else?
All right. So what was it like being in formal employment? In formal employment, it was the safety and assurance that at the end of the month you're getting paid. So learning to budget, sort of like, how when you're in boarding school, you get pocket money. Yes. Yeah. And you know that the next visitation is on like in a month or 2 months. So like, this money has to take me till then. Back then we didn't have the luxury of calling and saying, hey, I'm out of pocket money, I need more. No, that didn't happen. So being in formal employment is sort of like that. you get comfortable in that monthly cycle of, and then at the beginning of the month you have money, and then towards the mid-month you're like, oh my God, this has to stretch till, the end of the month. But then there's also that lack of flexibility. You can't do things that you would rather do. So that 9 to 5 restriction that eventually over time becomes overwhelming. Yes. Yeah, so there's that. So with financial investment, I found a balance where I partnered with different businesses and I make investments where I get monthly income. And then I upped that to investments where I get weekly income, and then investments where I get daily income. So then it would make sense for me, instead of spending the capital, I can work within the passive income. So when it got to a point where the salary that I was receiving was the same as the passive income that I was earning, it didn't make sense for me to stay within the restrictions of 9 to 5. Okay. So then that freed up my time. And yeah, so the advice that I would give someone is, do not save after spending. Save, then spend. So what most people do is, you have a budget and you're thinking, oh my God, I have to pay this, I have to pay this, I have to get food, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do that. But what happens is you end up treating savings as residual. Like, if I have any money left at the end of a month, that's what I'm going to save. But nobody has any money left at the end of a month.
There's always something to spend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what to do is, when you have your money, decide for yourself. What percentage can you afford to do without? Or squeeze yourself and live within that. So if you say you're going to be saving 20% every month, if you're a religious person and you do tithe and zakah, treat your savings the same way. As soon as you get it, take the savings out, and don't save in mundane things that are not being productive, because then that won't be rewarding for you. Because it will be like, why is the money just sitting there? Exactly. Like, I could be doing other things with it, right? So take out the savings and put them somewhere where they're helping you make more money, because yes, they're growing more. And the whole thing of capitalization and growing money and all that. And that way, when you get that discipline and you learn to live within the 80%, it's the same thing. It's just the way you structure your mind and convince yourself that you can do this. Yeah.
I think it's very unfortunate that a lot of financial education is not provided, like in schools. We don't learn these like deep things. We learn stuff like, oh, you should save, or capital is any wealth or asset that generates more wealth or asset. But it's important for people to have this information that you have right now, like, so that they're able to be like best versions of themselves. So I'm going to ask you the next question. It might sound like a bomb, because most people take this as a very derogatory term, but are you a feminist? And if you consider that, and if you say yes, why?
All right. Before I answer the question, I'd just like to talk about what you said about financial literacy and in schools and everything. What helped me, or what I would say was the first thing towards financial literacy, was something my mom told me, where she encouraged me to write down every single shilling that I spend. That way, at the end of the week, or at the end of the month, or at the end of the day, I can sit down and see where my money is going, and where I can, squeeze or minimize or adjust. And it's surprising the things that you discover when you actually sit down and see the numbers, and you're like, oh my God.
It keeps you accountable of how much you spend.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that should be a lesson that should be taught, like budgeting and journaling should be taught in schools, because that's a very important life skill. To answer your question, would I consider myself a feminist, or do I consider myself a feminist? I think if I said I do not, it would be a lie, and anybody that knows me would not believe it. But I also am hesitant to say it, because there are very many versions out there of what a feminist is. So I am not a male hater. I do not hate the male race. I subscribe to the belief that there is a place for male and female within societal settings, and there are gender roles that are male and female. I also believe that what a man can do, a woman can do, but it would be really nice if we didn't have to. Because that's just how women are wired. Because no woman out there, even if we like to think so sometimes, if we sit down and we're honest with ourselves, no woman out there wants to have to do the things that they would otherwise not have to do if a man was around. For example, change the plumbing, change the tire of the car, do the driving on the long distances, or just tell somebody to leave you alone when you want to be left alone, or when somebody's, just standing up for you. Like, we all like that feeling of opening doors for you and stuff like that. Nobody can open a door for themselves, but we all feel kind of nice when somebody does it for us, right? And yeah, so I think we all need to understand that you can be a feminist and still appreciate and understand and respect men. Yeah.
I love how you started by saying you don't hate men, because a lot of feminists are viewed as just people who hate men, and they want there to be more of like women on top and then men after.
Yeah.
But feminism is all about equality.
Yeah.
So there's distinction between...
Sorry, I'm going to stop you right there. It's not about equality, it's about equity.
Equity, yeah.
Yeah, so equality, we can never achieve equality. So yeah.
So it's about being fair.
Yes.
It's about being fair to like both genders. Yeah. Thank you for the correction. Yeah. So to end up the interview, is there something that you'd like to say to anyone who's listening, or just something you want to get out there?
The best thing that you can do for yourself is be authentically you. No one's perfect. Accept your flaws, own them, and use the energy that you would otherwise be using beating yourself up to strengthen your strengths and be a better version of who you are, because you're perfect just the way you are.
Exactly. I think that's so important, because a lot of us spend a lot of time self-hating and being like, why am I not this? Why am I not that? But a lot of that why could be in how can I get better, and, loving yourself for you are. I think that's a beautiful way to end the interview. Thank you so much for your time. And to everyone watching, I know that you just enjoyed this, because I did. I had a beautiful time learning about you, and I already feel so much wiser after these few minutes we've talked. So yeah, thank you for listening, and have a great day.